Welcome to 1991 Movie Rewind, a podcast where we watch and review every movie released in 1991, from the all-time greatest classics to the critically panned and everything in between. We will rediscover forgotten fan favorites and uncover hidden gems as we explore the depths of direct-to-video. Join us in our celebration of the fun, unique, and diverse films of this highly underrated year. This week, we watched Company Business. Jon, and thank you for joining us on 1991 Movie Rewind. In Company Business, former CIA agent Sam Boyd, played by Gene Hackman, is brought back in to handle one last job. He's being asked to orchestrate a prisoner exchange that would send Pyotr Grushenko, played by Mikhail Baryshnikov, back to Russia and bring an American agent home. During the handoff, Sam notices something is terribly wrong and escapes with Peter. Now the two are on the run and trying to elude both countries. Screenplay by Meyer, directed by Meyer, and released on September 6, 1991. Have you seen Company Business before?
No.
Have you heard of Company Business
before?
No, me either. It's such a generic name. And I don't know.
Yeah, I was... Well, I don't know if you read, all the trivia.
I did, yeah. This is sort of a botched production.
Yeah, it seems like no one wanted this movie to happen.
It's a weird situation where it seems like they greenlit the movie without a finished script. That's coming from Meyer himself. He has a memoir or biography or something that he wrote called The View from the Bridge, Memories of Star Trek and a Life in Hollywood, because he's also written 3 of the Star Trek movies, and including 1991's Star Trek 6, and he's directed some of that stuff as well. And he says, this moved forward without a finished script, and it really was the death knell of the movie. I can definitely understand.
Yeah, well, and then no one not Gene Hackman was not into it, and neither was Mikhail Baryshnikov.
Yeah, I guess he refused to do publicity for the movie.
Yeah,
as well.
But yeah, I mean, Gene Hackman he tried to get out of it.
He tried to back out, but I don't think it was because of the story. I think it's just because he had been doing too many movies.
Yeah, the reason why he wanted to back out was because he was doing 4 back-to-back productions, and he just didn't want to do this.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, he's a 61-year-old man at this point. And I know that because I looked it up to compare how old he is here versus Tom Cruise now doing a Mission Impossible thing, because they're both spy movies.
Yeah.
And Tom Cruise is 60 years old as of this year.
Okay.
And Hackman was 61 at the time that this movie was made.
He just seems like he's forever 60.
He does.
In my mind.
Yeah, even in The French Connection, he still looks like a 60-year-old man at that time. Yeah.
Even though that was 20 years earlier.
Exactly. So...
he would have been our age, but he looked 60.
Yeah. Time is a weird thing.
Yeah. And then I also read that this was a working title was supposed to be called Dinosaurs, which is even worse.
There's a few different alternate titles. I don't know what they were actually considering, but Company Business is something that was kind of slapped on at the last minute from what it sounds like. Dinosaurs was considered, and there's an allusion to that in one of the scenes where Grushenko's daughter is talking to Sam in a restaurant with a giant dinosaur skeleton overlooking it.
In some restaurant.
I don't know the name of the place, but it looked really cool. It was a really nice looking location. And it was alluding to the fact that they are...
It looked like a museum. But
it did,
posed as a restaurant.
Yeah. Maybe it was in a museum. It's a... You know how they have those cafes attached to them.
But this was fancy.
But Dinosaurs refers to the fact that these are both aging, basically retired agents, and so they're, a dying breed or something like that. Obviously, they couldn't use dinosaurs because there was a TV show.
Yes, that was
very popular TV show
come out soon.
So this is even before, the 2004 CGI dinosaurs movie by Disney as well. Other alternate titles?
Yeah, that one just would not have made sense either.
No, it wouldn't have been a good title for it. Here's the other ones that are listed on IMDb. Patriots.
Okay.
Very generic. False passports. That's and Russian roulette. I think false passports out of all of them is probably the best.
Because it's just they literally.
I don't know. Yeah, because they use false. None of them are good. None of them are good names. Company business. If you don't understand that company is referring to CIA, just sounds like other people's money parody movie.
Yeah, it's just call it CIA business. I have no idea.
Yeah, it sounds like a little kid who grows up and runs a company, right? I'm gonna go put on my suit and tie and go run the company business.
Yeah, my business is called company business.
Yeah. Excuse me, I'm very busy. I have a lot of company business to take care of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not a good title, and it wasn't Nicholas Meyer's choice from what it sounds like. A lot of this apparently was not. The final cut was taken away from him as well by the studios. This had a massive budget of $18 million. Considering what this movie is, that seems like a massive budget.
Yeah.
It made 1.5, which is honestly surprising that it made that much, putting it at 158 on our list overall. So yeah, I mean, this got a theatrical release, and I never heard of it. Never heard of it at all. It's supposed to be sort of like a spy comedy.
I don't even know where the comedy was.
I don't know. I mean, there are a couple parts where I think they were trying to be funny, but none of it.
Yeah, I think Baryshnikov was trying to try out some comedy by saying. I don't know if it was meant he wanted, improv in, or if it was meant for him to be the funny one as opposed to Gene Hackman being the serious one.
It could be. I mean, some of it also seemed a little bit situational. I think when Gene Hackman is leaving that, I don't remember which location it was, but there's these 4 guys who are just standing around waiting for him to follow him in Paris. I think just the idea that they're following so closely to him is supposed to be a joke. I think it's that kind of... It's look at how obvious it is that he's being trailed by these guys. Look at how stupid they are about not keeping distance.
Oh, okay.
That kind of stupidity. Or even things here I wrote down this part, because there's this one part where they're hiding out at a... they just escaped everything, and then they go to hide out at this drag show cabaret.
Yeah.
So at one point, the guy who's trying to organize everything says, "Patch me into Washington." And then you cut to this drag show or cabaret, which I think was kind of meant to be something of a commentary on Washington.
Oh.
That's the kind of humor I think was supposed to be in this movie.
Yeah, this is over my head, because I don't know anything about Cold War or whatever.
It's a lot of weird situational stuff,
Cold War humor.
Yeah,
but it's
Grushenko was wearing a.
We were children when this was ending.
Definitely, and even we'll get into the political stuff in a second here, I think, as well. But I mean, he was wearing Grushenko was wearing a Gorby Man jacket. So that's also a thing. I think the fact that Gene Hackman was supposed to have an Israeli passport was also supposed to be political humor at the time. There's a lot of stuff like that. I think the funniest possible scene is the opening scene where he's doing the espionage and infiltrating this building to take pictures of these top secret documents.
Yeah, and there's hackers or something.
Yeah, and there's 30 security guards chasing him down, and he repels down the building. And then you see this, young kid who talks about how he just hacked into the computer and got the same stuff. And then Gene Hackman steals his information or idea and goes into the boardroom and presents that kid's evidence as his own. And it's a big reveal that it was cosmetics company. It's, corporate espionage. I think that's situationally humorous, or supposed to be. And that's like the funniest part, and it wasn't funny.
Yeah, I just didn't get it.
Like, like this big top secret thing, and all this big secrecy around makeup.
Yeah, and then even him making the call back for when he met up with Grushenko's daughter.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, you're wearing, I don't even know the shade.
Yeah, Maxine Gray, number 35, whatever.
Like, shade number whatever, Lavender Sunrise, or whatever it was called.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's like, oh, you really know? I was okay, like, fine, alright.
Yeah.
Like, Maxine Gray is is a huge cosmetic company.
I mean, in this world, yes. They're not real, right? No.
Well, the other thing that
I don't know.
No, I don't think so. At least they're not like huge, like Revlon or whatever.
Yeah.
But the one thing that did make me laugh, I don't know, it was meant to be funny. The receptionist, her phone were like the lips phone.
Like lips, yeah.
They were in the shape of lips.
Yeah.
And I thought that was funny. And if that was intended to be funny, then okay, you
Good
got
job.
that one.
You got one.
You got one. Because just, if you go to like any corporate office, like, you just have like the same basic phone. So her having this fancy red-lipped phone was funny.
It's difficult to make a political comedy when politics are changing so rapidly at the time. And I think, like we were talking about earlier, we were kids and we wouldn't have understood, if we watched this, we wouldn't have understood some of the references. It's definitely meant for adults of the time, because there's a lot of political talk, there's a lot of like allusions to different conflicts and different countries and dictators and stuff that I have ancillary knowledge of the names, but that's about it.
Yeah, just from what you learned in history class, unless you did like a hardcore deep dive of the Cold War.
Yeah, and one of the things that Nicholas Meyer is talking about is like going forward without a finished script was suicide, and while on paper this appeared to be promising, in reality we were all pulling in different directions, and there's, part of the issue is that there was so much change in the world that was happening while they were making this movie that they could not even keep up. One of the major things is that the movie was released in 1991 as the Soviet Union was ceasing to exist. So like the whole concept of these it's already outdated. Yeah, the Berlin Wall is another thing.
Yeah, because they go to Berlin and they do mention like it's so weird to see Berlin without the wall up.
Yeah, and it made me think how obviously it was very new, right? 1989.
It went down in 80. So they were
it's only 2 years.
Honestly, filming that like I don't know, either in 1990 or early 91. So it's like a year or year and a half of it being taken down. So
it is such a strange, different time for that. And we've only had one other movie that's mentioned the Berlin Wall so far, which is Salmon Berries.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this project going forward, just to, like movies that could potentially mention it and just don't. Like that they didn't write that change into the script when they probably could have. Or how additional movies handle this massive change in Germany. I don't know. This one just basically mentioned it in passing, and it became, I don't know, it sounded like they wanted to make it a bigger plot point because they're talking about the transportation of the trains, the subway system going from west to east, or east to west. I don't remember which way they were going.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of like Zentropa or something.
Yes. I mean, yeah,
that whole train. I will say, like, the cool parts of this movie are, like, the chase scenes when they're on the trains going, like, back and forth and running away from whoever. And then even in the Eiffel Tower,
This movie is better than it should have been, considering what Nicholas Meyer is saying about the production and how it was not a finished script. There's a lot of competent aspects to this. I think that the directing and cinematography especially are competent. Really good use of shadows and light. You got like a nice variety of angles and, mixed perspectives, and, they're trying to make it visually interesting and exciting. Like you said, the chase scenes have something going on. But even at its height of tension, it still seems incredibly boring. The plot's moving fast.
Yeah.
But I feel like maybe it's just way too predictable for its own good. Even the tense moments feel like they focus on the mundane when they're doing the handoff. There's like a 30-45 second sequence of him unlocking the gate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to see all of that. I don't know. It doesn't... I don't know. So they focus on a lot of stuff, and it just kind of drags the pacing down, even though the plot itself is moving relatively quick. It's about an hour and a half movie. And they go to multiple countries and have multiple things happen to them. But boy, does it seem slower than it is.
It's like they're on set, so that's really... Well, yeah.
They're on location.
They're on location, yeah, not on set.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see Berlin during that time, and even Paris.
I think what also kind of is odd is... I'm not sure if you noticed this as well, but everything just seems super empty. Like when they're running down the streets, nobody is on the streets. Yeah, I wonder if
I mean... I don't know how tourism was like, late 80s, early 90s.
But they could have fleshed it out with a couple of local extras to be walking on the sidewalk, but there's nobody. Even the Eiffel Tower is maybe like 10% full. That is, you would never see the Eiffel Tower that empty these days. Maybe it was that way in 91, but yeah, maybe now. But I don't know. We're sort of post-pandemic now, so... it's probably super packed again up there, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, even when I'm trying to think. We only went to Paris once, and we did the Eiffel Tower.
Yes,
once,
and it was full.
Yeah,
it was super full, and you have people riding elevators solo in this movie, and you have a lot of walking room and a lot of dead space on the floor when the overhead shots. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, I understand
that they closed down these locations for filming, but they should have fleshed it out to make it more...
the late 80s, early 90s.
Filming. I'm not sure if they used the real Eiffel Tower for these scenes, honestly.
It
looked authentic.
It looked like it, because I remember those elevators.
Yeah, they recreated it very well if they did not use the actual place.
And that restaurant that's you, because I didn't go all the way to the top. Was there a restaurant at the top?
I don't know. The restaurant that they went to at the end was not at the top.
Oh.
They were back down the elevator.
So
that was ground floor.
Oh, that's where the restaurant was?
In the movie, yes.
Okay, I thought it was up top.
There would not have been any room for a restaurant at the top. It's at the very spire. So it's very, very small space.
Because that restaurant they went to is still there today.
Yeah,
it's at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought it was because when they were looking out the window, it looked like they were looking down in the restaurant.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
That's why I thought it was on one of the levels.
No, I don't think there's any room for a restaurant in any of those.
That's what I was like. I don't remember
maybe
seeing
like
a
the
restaurant.
very bottom. I have like the four corners, and then you have like that very like.
There's
strip
three.
Of base.
Okay.
Maybe there. I don't know.
There's like 3 levels, and I only did 1 because I was too scared.
And that's why I'm saying at the very top where they were, no way, way it would be that empty.
That's why I'm asking you, because you went to the higher levels.
Yeah, no way it would be that empty.
And I don't remember a restaurant, but it's still there to this day. That's why. But at the end of the movie, it looked as if they were looking down.
Yeah. Again, it could have been at that the big base strip at that.
Yeah, at the first, there's the first, middle, and then very top. So it could have been at the first.
It's there.
I don't even know. Whoever's been to the Eiffel Tower.
So.
Let me know.
So yeah, anyway, I mean, the movie, like I said, it goes a lot of different places. It does, and I don't think that they make any stupid moves either, like, but it's just all predictable. It's like, okay, they understand that something's going wrong with this handoff, and so they run away. Where they go and run away to makes sense. I don't know, like, every step that they make seems to make sense, and they also always understand. Both Sam and Grushenko are agents, and so they both understand that the government is going to be expecting their moves, and so it's a little bit of a cat and mouse, but it's nothing you haven't seen before. Even probably at this time, like, you probably haven't, you switch trains as they're both in motion, which is interesting, and it, looks nice, but it's not anything you haven't seen before. They go and get fake passports, new identities, nothing you haven't seen before. And then you cut to the governments saying, oh yeah, they're going to do this, they're going to do this, they're going to do this. It's staying one step ahead. So it's a smart movie, but it's super expected. I don't know.
Yeah, I knew that they were gonna work together, and I knew that they were near the end, where it seemed as if they were going to be working against each other, like at the very end. But
sure.
Where they're in the Eiffel Tower, But I was like, no, they're going to be working together to overcome, like, the CIA, I guess.
Yeah, and the Russian government as well, just kind of working in tandem with them at a certain point.
All right, I think they have a separate level for this restaurant because it's, like, midway somewhere.
Sure, yeah. Pull up a picture of we're talking about the Jules Verne restaurant, if anyone wants to know. Yeah, pull up a picture of the actual Eiffel Tower, and you should probably see where it would locate. It's probably, like I said...
It's at that first base.
Yeah.
There's three...
The base part.
Okay, yeah, because that's... But we didn't go on that base, because maybe that was like a separate entrance.
It might be almost all restaurant, and maybe a gift shop or something. It's interesting that, I mean, okay, they present some stuff in this movie that just doesn't resolve, and I think that's probably because, they went into this without a fully finished, cohesive story in place. I don't know if they had an outline. Like, how did this get greenlit? I don't know. The studio that produced this did not do well,
it was
and they're
MGM?
It was MGM and Pathé. Pathé.
So it was like a French...
And I think they stayed sort of afloat in 1991 because they also did Thelma and Louise.
Mm. I mean, maybe because... So, did they just greenlit it because they were like, oh, Nicholas Meyer...
Yeah, you got Nicholas Meyer and you got Gene Hackman attached.
And they were like, just go ahead, we know it's going to be good.
Right.
And we don't even care what it is.
Something like that, possibly. And you have Baryshnikov in there, too. Who's he's
like trying to...
He's done some acting up to this point as well. He even had an Oscar nomination.
Serious, yeah.
You have Oscar winner Gene Hackman for French Connection, and soon to win another Oscar for Unforgiven. He's been nominated for Bonnie and Clyde, I Never Sang for My Father, and then later on Mississippi Burning. You have Mikhail Baryshnikov, who won the Oscar for Turning Point, but obviously best known as being a dancer. He's like the most famous ballet dancer of all time, arguably, at least male-wise.
Yeah.
And, he's won a Tony nomination for Metamorphosis as well, and so he's done a lot, and he has done acting. Big name. Gene Hackman, big name. Nicholas Meyer, he has an Oscar nomination as well for this movie called The 7% Solution as a writer. Emmy nominated for The Day After, which is an extremely controversial movie at the time. So you have this makings of a good movie, and you need a finished idea of where you're going to head to make the comedy effective, to make the drama and the tension effective, to make a spy thriller effective. You need to have some unpredictable twists and turns, and there's nothing that's unpredictable in this. I think the only thing that's supposed to be unpredictable is the colonel who's running the show, who turns out to be the bad guy.
Yeah, I mean...
But you know that from the very start, when he's introduced in shadows and puts a harsh light on himself, saying, no, this has to be done.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, you're the bad guy. I think the biggest turn of fate is, Kurtwood Smith, who plays Elliot Jaffe in this one. He's Sam's handler, in a sense. And you think he's going to be the bad guy. He starts off as not the bad guy. He's on Sam's side. He does not know what's really going on with this whole handoff, and it's not really even worth getting into all of the political intrigue and but this guy flipped and now he's an agent for Russia, but now he's an American agent and he's double agent stuff. It's really, I don't care. I really don't. But eventually Kurtwood's on the side of the CIA, probably because he has to, but whatever, where they're just trying to chase both of them down and capture them for whatever they need to do. And then I don't know, I just also didn't like that the movie just ended. They're in the restaurant.
Okay, yeah,
Peter makes the phone call and
kind of
exposes Colonel Grissom, and then the end.
I don't know if this was also supposed to be funny. So, at the end in the Eiffel Tower, they're doing the whole chasing scene, and Baryshnikov, he gets shot, in the stomach.
Yeah, there's a shootout. So they're trying to do this exchange where they send Baryshnikov, Grushenko's daughter, who's been working with them to help them launder this money, because there's $2 million involved. We didn't talk about that at all. There's $2 million involved that was part of this handoff. And they also kept the money, but haven't spent it, and they're trying to find a way to launder it to keep it out of the government's hands now. And the daughter was going to help them with that because she has business ties or whatever. She has company business ties. Not really technically company because it's not CIA, but whatever. And so, she gets captured by the Russians and the Americans both in tandem. And then, send the daughter down the Eiffel Tower. We'll bring Grushenko up. And then there's a shootout because somehow Sam Boyd is posing as the elevator operator at the Eiffel Tower. How that happened, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because they don't show that.
He planned this. Well, because, he also made a reservation at that restaurant.
Yeah,
because they go straight in. They're like, do you have a reservation? He goes, yeah, it's under blah, blah, blah.
John Jones, the alias that they haven't used yet.
Yeah.
But, obviously they can't show us why he becomes the elevator operator because it would ruin the reveal at the end when he turns around and does the shootout and kills, the major bad guy, Mike Flynn, played by Daniel Van Bargen, I think known best for a few episodes of Seinfeld, probably.
Yeah, and so...
And Grushenko gets shot in tandem, by Mike at the same time.
Yes, he's shot, and they just kind of, put a coat over him, and they go eat.
Yeah, because they can't leave. People are going to be looking for them. And so they're like, we're going to wait till the heat dies down, basically.
Yeah, but he's bleeding internally and dying, possibly.
Yes.
And they're like, this is probably meant to be funny. And they just sit down and talk future plans. And that's when Sam is saying we should move to the Seychelles. He kind of poses that.
Mm-hmm. It's like, they can't extradite us.
But I don't even... That's when Grushenko makes that phone call, and then they order, that drink... The Starka.
Yeah, which is a big running joke, quote unquote, in the whole thing too.
Yeah, well, when they first meet and get to Berlin together, they order Grushenko's like, have you ever had Starka or something like that? And it's,
It's a whole big thing of this isn't the best in the world, but I prefer it to the most popular, whatever.
Yeah.
Stoli.
So they start to bond while they're in Berlin over drinking Starka, and then at the end of the movie, they order that same drink and just kind of like cheers, and then the end.
In the end, yeah, we don't see them escape. We don't see them on the island like in FX2 or FX1, I guess it is.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. I mean, that kind of reminds me, I mean, I didn't really feel the relationship between Hackman and Baryshnikov, between Sam and Peter in this movie. I mean, I get that they had to work together, but I didn't really feel the bonding between them.
Yeah,
So.
This didn't seem buddy cop or whatever. I don't want to say, like, it's not cop.
Yeah, we put it into our buddy movie category for the month, but it's
like cop versus prisoner.
It's forced buddies.
Yeah, they're just working together because they both want like the same outcome.
But even at the end, when they're planning on still continuing their life together outside of Paris,
I feel like Grushenko's like, we did what we did, and now he's probably like, I'm done.
Now it just feels like they're just kind of stuck together and they're trying to tolerate each other.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is what it is. Let's get into some of the cast and crew that we haven't mentioned already. We already talked about Nicholas Meyer. Like I said, we'll see him again in Star Trek VI because he wrote that. Gene Hackman, we talked about him. Mikhail Baryshnikov. Kurtwood Smith is Elliot Jaffe. He's going to be in a couple more 1991 movies. Oscar, Shadows and Fog, and Star Trek VI. He's best known for that 70s show, the upcoming That 90s show, Rambo 3, and also RoboCop. Terry O'Quinn is an Emmy winner for Lost and also a 2-time nominee for that. Also a Spirit nomination for The Stepfather. He's also going to be in the 1991 movies The Rocketeer, Shoot First, A Cop's Vengeance, and also The Last to Go, which is not on our list. And then we got Geraldine Dannon as Natasha Grimaud, who is Grushenko's daughter. She's going to be in the 1991 movie The Old Lady Who Walked in the Sea. And also Catorce Estaciones, which is not on our list. She's been in other movies. Mostly she's a French actress. She's been in things like Kill the Referee and Gene's Tonic. And I do have a pausing on the credits this time around. A guy named Luis Eppolito, who played Paco Gonzalez, the Colombian who's in the war room at the CIA at the beginning, who's funding the $2 million for this operation because of, political intrigue.
Yeah, all of the political intrigue was so...
It didn't make a whole lot of sense because at one point they're like, oh, this is very hush-hush, you have to do this solo because we can't devote any active agents to this thing because of whatever it is. But by the way, keep meticulous records of your expenses so we can reimburse you. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a joke too.
Yeah.
Or if that's...
Like, we just didn't get it.
Or if it's just like not thinking through what you're actually trying to present on screen. I don't know. Anyway... Luis Eppolito, he's going to be in the 1991 movie Switch as well. He's been in things like Lost Highway, Goodfellas, Predator 2. He's a former New York Police Department officer, and he was indicted in March 2005 with his partner for providing information about key witnesses and confidential informants to a crime family, a mob crime family. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Lucchese? 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 They were charged with carrying out mob murders, turning over individuals to the Lucchese family as well. They were found guilty in April 2006.
I think it's...
Overturned briefly.
I think it's Lucchese.
Lucchese? Okay. Conviction was overturned on a technicality, but then reinstated in 2008. And in 2009, he was sentenced to life plus 100 years in prison, and he has since passed away in 2019. So a little pausing on the credits /
crime
entry into true crime, and obviously no awards to mention on this one. So on to further true crime and pop culture.
Okay, so on September 6th, 1991, this was a Friday, I asked you this and you didn't know who this person was. This is a famous death. Donald Henry Pee Wee Gaskins, who was an American serial killer, was executed in the electric chair on this day at the age of 58 years old. Pee Wee Gaskins he was an American serial killer. He was mostly from South Carolina, and I'm not gonna go into his murders, but he had like most serial killers, they had a really bad childhood, and the reason why he got the name Pee-wee is because he was so short and skinny and scrawny, and as a child into adulthood, as an adult, he was 5'4", 130 pounds. And he didn't even know what his real name was because everyone just called him Pee-wee his entire life. He didn't even know what his real name was until he first got arrested when he was like a teen. And he dropped out of school at the age of 11. He started doing all kinds of like burglaries, assaults. This is trigger warning, but the crimes that he did do and the murders he did were like honestly sickening, and I'm not going to talk about it. But I mean, there are like hundreds of true crime podcasts. Like the one that I heard of was like years ago, was when Last Podcast on the Left did it, and it was like a 3-parter on him. And this was like back in 2016 or something. But yeah, he was he was mostly known for killing close friends and family members, which is disgusting. And he was also like a serial rapist. But he started his, I don't know, he called them his he was in and out of like, I don't know, did they call it juvenile prison back then? Because he was in and out of that from like age 13 to whatever. And he was also known as a carny, quote unquote. Like he would go from like carnival to carnival. Okay. And he was marrying young women who were like 13 years old. But he was like, first time he got married, I think he was 15, and he married a 13-year-old. His actual killings started in 1970, and it went until 1975. But he was arrested with 9 counts of murder after police found the bodies of several of his friends. Because I think what Pee-wee, well, I know, like, what he did, he kind of was, he was working with someone else near the end, like, in the mid-70s, and this friend sort of, like, ratted him out, because Pee-wee, he was kind of, like, boasting, like, oh, yeah, I killed this person, and he's buried in my backyard. Like, he was just, like, going around...
Yeah, advertising.
Yeah, advertising, like, that he's killing people and then burying them, and so his friend pretty much like ratted him out and told the police, so they found bodies in his yard, and that's what really got him arrested. And at that time, this was in 1976, so he was sentenced to death, but he later confessed to 7 additional murders to avoid additional death sentences. And his sentence was commuted to life with 7 consecutive life terms in prison after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled the death penalty as unconstitutional. And while in prison, Pee-wee was hired by someone by the name of Tony Simo. He is I'm not going to go into these people because I was like, there's too many people involved.
It's
and
a long, complex story, yeah.
He was hired by someone by Tony Simo, I think. Simo or Chimo, who was the son of Bill and Myrtle Moon. Bill and Myrtle Moon were both killed by another inmate in the same prison as Pee-wee. And that inmate's name is Rudolph Tyner. So, Tony Simo hired Pee-wee to kill his parents' murderer, since they were both in the same prison together.
Okay.
Pee-wee was able to form a relationship with Tyner, posing as a drug dealer and lacing drugs with rat poison in attempt to kill him, but that didn't work, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And after that didn't work, he fashioned and made a homemade bomb. Apparently he had like free reign in prison too.
Guess so.
And Pee-wee rigged a device similar to a portable radio that Tyner had in his cell, and he told Tyner that this would allow the both of them to communicate with each other between cells. And Pee-wee told Tyner to follow these instructions to, hold this speaker up to your ear at this certain time to, hear me or whatever.
Right.
And then at that time, Pee-wee would detonate the explosives, and that's what killed him. And because of that, Pee-wee received the death penalty again for the murder of Rudolf Tyner. And while he was on death row, Pee-wee told his life story to a journalist and confessed to over 181 murders, including a murder of the daughter of the current South Carolina senator at the time. And Pee-wee said that he had a, quote, special mind that gave him permission to kill. And Pee-wee Gaskins was executed on September 6, 1991 at 1:10 a.m. He was the fourth person to die in the electric chair after the death penalty was reinstated in South Carolina. And his last words were, "I'll let my lawyers talk for me. I'm ready to go."
Yeah, I have not heard any of that, but it sounds like a very complex, intricate story of yes.
of his life, and then just what happened while he was in prison.
Yeah.
He was also known as the meanest man in America, the hitchhiker killer, the redneck Charles Manson, which, okay. Yeah.
They want to assign some labels to people. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And then moving on to TV, I guess.
On to happier subjects.
So there wasn't anything new. It was like a typical TGIF lineup, but in the middle of the TGIF lineup, there was a Saturday morning preview. So this was probably just for all the new cartoons that were probably going to be coming up for the fall.
Yeah, they did that like every year for a while. Obviously, they stopped when Saturday morning cartoons became a thing, but yeah, it was like a half-hour preview, usually like a special production with interstitials and like live-action people interacting with cartoons, depending on the network and stuff.
Yeah.
They'd done that since like the early 80s, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't find out what the preview was for, though. Like, what cartoons they were...
I know we have a TV guide
I know
somewhere
we have one.
that has like, so if we knew
it could have been
network,
like Tasmania or something. I don't know.
yeah, well, it depends on what the network was.
Yeah, well, I don't know what cartoons were on ABC. I can't remember.
He'd have like Muppet Babies and Beetlejuice and
okay,
some of those in there.
Yeah, I know we sort of talked about cartoons before. And that was the only different thing that was going on TV. So moving on to music, I'm going to do the bottom 5 as of September 7th, 1991. And number 100 is... I know we've talked about this person before, but I never mentioned anything, like what he's done or anything.
Okay.
It's the song Love on a Rooftop by a guy named Desmond Child, and that was 12 weeks in the chart, and it peaked at number 40. But Desmond Child was a songwriter and a producer mostly, and he's like just another, I don't know, vitamin C. I can do another episode on this guy. He wrote Joan Jett and the Black Hearts, I Hate Myself for Loving You. He wrote Bon Jovi's You Give Love a Bad Name and Living on a Prayer. He did Aerosmith's Dude Looks Like a Lady and Crazy. He did some songs for Cher. He did a couple songs for Alice Cooper. He did Livin' La Vida Loca for Ricky Martin.
Wow.
So, I mean, he's all over the place.
All these hidden names in the music industry.
Yeah.
Or hidden to the general public, I guess.
Yeah. And then they do their own solo stuff,
And
and
it flops,
and their
yeah.
own solo stuff is not good, which is interesting.
Or maybe it's, I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
I mean-
obviously personality and presentation is a big part of it too.
Yeah, but I mean, Vitamin C, she was
She had
she
had
she had
success.
her own career, but I'm like this guy. I was like, this song's not even that great.
Yeah.
And then who else? Oh, Kathy Dennis, but she actually had good songs, and she's written like she wrote for like Britney Spears and Katy Perry and stuff like that.
I wonder if, like, in some of these cases, you know, you hear about writers who write songs specifically for certain artists.
Yeah.
I wonder also if maybe some cases they write a song and then they just push it out into the ether, and then the producers and artists kind of like bid for the rights to like do it. You know, like Aerosmith is competing against Bon Jovi to do a certain song, or you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And so he's not saving the good stuff for himself. He's like, I can get more money if I
If
auction
someone
it
else
off.
sang this for me.
Yeah. And I know, like, Billy Joel has said stuff like, a lot of the songs that I've written and performed, I don't
Like,
have
I
myself
can't-
in mind.
Oh.
I actually have other people in mind, but then I just end up doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But I remember we talked about him, and I'm like, who the hell is this? But then I actually looked him up.
A writing superstar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 99 is I Wanna Sex You Up by Color Me Bad. That was
On the way down or on the way up?
on the way down. This was 23 weeks on the chart, and it peaked at number 2. Number 98 is a song by Tara Kemp, Piece of My Heart. She only had one other hit that was in 1991, and that was Just Wanna Hold You Tight. I don't know if you remember that.
Not too much. I know, like, we've covered Tara Kemp, or we talked about her briefly once before as well.
And I think it was for the Hold You Tight song.
Possibly.
And this is just her other hit, and she only had this one album that was released in 1991, and this song, Piece of My Heart and Hold You Tight, were the only ones that charted. But when I was listening to this song, it sounded like the same beat as Hold You Tight, just different lyrics. So, I don't know. Number 97 is a song called This is a debut. The Piece of My Heart song, that was 18 weeks on the chart, and it peaked at number 7.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So number 97 is this debut song called I Wonder Why by someone by the name of Curtis Stigers. I think that's how I say his last name. But I couldn't finish this song because I realized I hate this song. Because this song was played... This is a grocery store song, but it was not a hit to me because it was one of those songs that was probably repeatedly played, and I just hate it so much. It's either like... When a song that I hear from when I was working at the grocery store, it either like hits me in a good place, or it hits me in a bad place where I'm like, I hate this forever.
Yeah.
And this song did that for me. But this guy was like, he's a singer but also saxophonist, so he was like Kenny G, but he sang.
Okay.
And this song was the only song, this is his first album out of many albums, I guess. And it was his self-titled debut for 1991. But this song, I Wonder Why, was the only song to hit the charts. And number 96, we talked about this person before. The song is called Wishing on the Same Star, and it's by this woman named Kitty. We talked about her before because she opened for Michael Bolton while he was touring.
Okay.
And this song just reminds me of like a knockoff of Somewhere Out There from America. I don't know if you were listening. Were you listening to
a little bit, yeah.
It was like we're staring at the same star and the same moon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is this? Somewhere Out There? But and that was this song is 4 weeks on the chart, and it peaked at number 86.
So we'll move on to rankings and ratings then.
Yeah.
Where on your 1 to 5 star scale are you going to put Company Business?
I mean, I'm gonna give this a 2.
2? That's high.
I mean,
that's higher than I thought.
I mean, I almost gave it a 1, but I actually liked the scenes where they were doing the chase scenes.
Yeah, I liked the locations. like I said, I liked the cinematography. I liked the directing of it. I just hated the story. I just thought it was
mostly bored. If it was all, because I was even thinking like this, if this was like the French Connection, because I mean those scenes in the French Connection were exciting.
Yeah.
And like if it was all chasing around random cities, I'd be like, oh, this is exciting.
If it was more like a Mission Impossible.
Yeah, I guess.
And less of let's
going
sit around
to different locations,
talk to random old people.
Yeah, for 20 minutes and not even understanding what they're really saying.
Yeah, and even I don't know, like bring some of the characters back and like use them to your advantage. You know, like it would have been nice if they would have found a way to bring back people from that cabaret scene and use them as like cover in future scenes or distraction or you know what I mean. Like there's ways to do callbacks that might be more effective, although they're in different cities. But yeah, whatever. In my 0 to 4 star scale, I'm gonna give it a 1.
Wow.
I mean, I was honestly considering going down to half, but I mean, I don't think Hackman and Baryshnikov did a bad job acting. I don't think anyone did a bad job acting. Like I said, I like the visual side of it, but boy, is this story like it moves fast, but it's just super boring. I was bored to tears, more than most movies I watched, and this is supposed to be a thrilling one, and it's just not. Every movie's worth watching once. Would you watch this again?
No.
We'll move on to other business. If you out there want to watch Company Business, as of this recording in June 2022, it's available on HBO Max, digital rental, VHS, or DVD. Check your local listings because that could change. You can listen to us on all of your major podcasting platforms. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, and tell your friends. You can email us at 1991movierewind@gmail.com. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and YouTube. Just search 1991 Movie Rewind or go to 1991movierewind.com for the full list of movies, along with show notes and more. Next week, in our Buddy Movie Month, we're going to be watching Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. That's available on HBO Max, Cinemax, digital rental, VHS, DVD. We will see you then.